Hello and welcome to the Plant Paradigm Podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with amazing individuals from all around the world and look for ways to create a clean, green, and sustainable future for us, the planet, and all beings. I'm your host, Tom Simak, a fellow plant eater who strives to optimize every living ecosystem, passionate about looking after this big floating rock we call home and all the lovely creatures that dwell among it. Today's episode features a conversation between Shawn Stratton and I. Shawn is the director of the International Vegan Film Festival, best-selling author of the book Teens on Edge, and an Ironman athlete. In 2013, Shawn was inducted into the Royal Canadian Geographical Society's College of Fellows. We'll be covering a whole host of topics such as vegan films, health and how life is like being a vegan family, fitness and his journey to becoming an Ironman athlete and running a 100-mile race, and all things surrounding veganism. I hope you enjoy the ride, and I will see you on the other side. Shawn, mate, welcome to the podcast. How are you going?
Excellent. Doing really well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, absolutely. A pleasure. We've got, a few weeks until the International Vegan Film Festival kicks off. How's your schedule looking, mate?
It's jam-packed. Yeah, we're really excited. It's going to be a busy next couple of weeks trying to line it all up, but we're excited to kick things off, and I'm really excited to have folks have a chance to see these really cool films.
Yeah, I had like a bit of a preview on the website, and there is a fair bit going on, and some really unique ones, and I'm sure some will string a lot of emotional like bones and a few tears will happen.
Absolutely.
Look, from my research, it's a bit of a one-of-a-kind thing, this festival. What made you want to start something like this?
Yeah, I guess it goes back, in kind of the fall of 2017, where I kind of got the idea there. At that point, I'd been vegan for two and a half, almost 3 years, and was just kind of becoming more and more passionate about the movement, and just wanted to see how I could serve the plant-based community and how I could get involved in it, utilizing my skills and experience and interests. And, I wasn't ready to start a business selling a product that wasn't kind of my cup of tea at the time. And I've kind of come more of an organization background. I led expeditions for a long time, wilderness expeditions, so organizing those, and then organizing triathlons and other events. And so I attended a few veg fests and was really inspired by those. I was like, maybe I'll start a veg fest in Ottawa. Or take over the one. And I had meetings with folks about taking over the Veg Fest here. But as I learned more about it and what's involved, it was just too much at the time for me and my family and the other commitments I had. And so I kept thinking about what else. And I thought about documentaries and how powerful they were for me and my family and my wife, kind of deciding to go vegan. And we're like, maybe there's a film festival out there. And I've always been inspired by one particular film festival, the Banff Mountain Film Festival. It happens out of Banff, Alberta in the Rockies, and it's a mountain adventure film festival. And I've seen it for years. They have a world tour, so I've seen it all around the world. And I've been to Banff for that. And I thought maybe there's a vegan, vegan film festival out there with a world tour that I could bring to Ottawa to show a screening of. And did some research, and I couldn't find any. I was like, what? There's no film festivals out there for vegan themed films. And so I was like, well, this might be the opportunity. Let's check it out and see if it's worthwhile. And met with some kind of influencers in the space and kind of bounced the idea off them to see if I wasn't just totally crazy. And they all thought it was great, and talked to a couple of friends that do their own film festivals, and got some information and some ideas from them, and decided to take the jump and go for it.
That's awesome. And now this is your second year?
Third year.
How was your first, how was that received your first year? Was it would you say it was quite successful, or are you just planning for it to get better year on year on year?
Yeah, it's definitely getting better year on year on year. It's, it was kind of self-funded, self-started. I was kind of a one-man show at the time, and started small. I think we had probably over 120, 130 folks out at the first time.
That's still amazing. That's a very solid effort.
Yeah, I was really happy with it. You always want to sell out. You want 300 or 400 or 500 people.
Yeah.
You want more people to see these films because they're so impactful, so powerful. But Yeah, it went really well. It was in the Mayfair Theater here in Ottawa, and yeah, it was a thing that wasn't on anybody's radar. So it's not like everybody's wondering when's VegFest this year, because VegFest happens every year in the fall or in April or whenever. It's like, we're having a vegan film festival. Come out and watch. It's like, what's a vegan film festival? Like, where is this? Who's doing this? What's it all about? So it was, not just, selling the tickets. It was educating people on what the whole event was about. Now, year on in, it's a couple of years in, it's a bit easier. More people have heard of it for sure.
Yeah. I'd be curious to know, I'm assuming a majority of people that are already vegan would attend these events. You reckon people that aren't in that lifestyle would go?
Yeah. There's definitely a bunch of people that are, I think a lot of the vegan curious show up.
Right.
The flexitarians, the people that are like, I'm thinking about this. Maybe I could learn something else. Maybe I could learn some more by attending the festival. But then you always get the people, like, not many people come to a theater experience by themselves. There are a few that come by themselves, but most come with somebody else. And a lot of times that person they're taking isn't a vegan.
Right.
And so whether it's a spouse or a buddy or a friend or whatever, and those are the people I find that have the greatest impact on. But, the big part of the festival is just inspiring vegans too. I want vegans to come and check it out. And because I want them to be inspired, we need to be, we need to remember the reasons why we're vegan. And because sometimes, you wonder why, or it's too much of a challenge, or you're sick of trying to, justify with your friends. And then you go to one of these film festivals and you see these films, you're like, wow, like, I'm so proud of doing this. I'm so proud of being plant-based. Like, this makes so much sense again. Like, I'm glad I'm rejuvenated for another year of plant-based living. So it's just as important for inspiring for that, but also then educating, the vegan curious. A lot of these films share a lot of information that, when you leave, you're just like, wow, how could I not be plant-based after learning all that?
For sure. And I'm sure a lot of the vegans that go to these festivals also learn a bunch of things, whether that's health related or ethics related, or different perspectives that they maybe didn't have before. Because we know you could go vegan for environmental reasons and not really connect with the morality or the efficacy of that lifestyle. And that could really create that connection for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, to paint a bit of a picture, I've personally never actually been to a film festival. We have a few in Melbourne, but a lot of them, I'm a bit of a sloth. Like, I sleep a lot and they tend to be at nighttime, which is quite a shame. But can you give us a run through of what a film festival actually physically would look like and how that works?
Yeah, sure. It's our film festivals, every film festival is a bit unique, but there's kind of a pre-COVID and a post-COVID to our film festival. Yeah. So, pre-COVID, the first couple of years, it was pretty small. We just did kind of an evening at a theater here in Ottawa. And last year we added kind of some expo booths. So some information booths were there and some food. And I think we had 3 or 4 food vendors. And so we had kind of a community feel. People came out. And then we kind of just showed like a best of the best. We had about a 3-hour screening of kind of the best short films, and that's where we did the announcements and things like that of the winners for each category and the overall winners. This year it's totally transformed, totally new, totally different. It's 100% online. It's virtual because of the pandemic. A lot of the theaters are closed here in Ottawa still, and so with every challenge comes an opportunity, and we're trying to seize that opportunity to not only just show our vegan themed films to Ottawa audiences, but now we have a global potential, a global audience, and they're going to be going 100% virtual. And then we got a chance to add so many more films. So the last couple of years, we've just kind of did kind of 9 to 12 short films. Now we've got 28 films in total that we're going to be showing. Wow. They range from 1 minute to I believe probably an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. So a bunch of feature films. I think we have about 6 feature films and a bunch of short films. And we're really excited to show them.
That's really insane. And I'm so glad that you've kind of made that shift. Like, I'm sure when COVID first hit, you were a bit stressed. I'd say like, oh, sugar, what am I going to do now? And you've made the adaptation, which is really cool. And with your perspective shift, you're now gotten yourself in a position where you can actually, I guess, reach more people and spread the message even further, which is so glad. I'm so glad to see something like that come into fruition. I wanted to talk about what your favorite films were for a second, Mr. Film Guru Shawn.
Yeah, there's so many. Bunterland is a really neat film. It's out of Germany. It's subtitled in English, and it's about a dairy farmer in Germany that kind of inherits a family farm and farms it for years. But over the last bunch of years, it kind of grew on him that he wasn't comfortable with the way these cows were treated and what they were doing to them, milking them, and then eventually sending them off to slaughter. And so he tries to turn his farm into a kind of an organic farm of plants, and that was a struggle. And then eventually he turns it into a retirement home, as he calls it, for cows. And so he basically turns it into a sanctuary, and not only a sanctuary, then he opens up some of his barns, and that he converts them into tourist accommodations. So he kind of turns it into a bed and breakfast and a kind of a tourist, almost a hotel for you. And so that's a really neat film. There's so many others. There's this Acropolis cow out of the UK, where a really well-known journalist, George Mombot, travels around England and really looks at the environmental damage that has happened in England because of animal agriculture that brings it to people to a lot of areas that they would never think of as being damaged. These beautiful rivers that have been totally stripped of their fish because of the pollution upstream from animal agriculture, or a beautiful area such as the Lake District, which is coveted by folks in England as like a holiday destination with beautiful rolling hills, grassy hills. But he brings a different perspective. He gets up there and he says, this is a sheep wasteland. This should be covered in trees here, but we've cut all the trees down. Now we have sheep here, and we can only grow like one crop of grass here because they eat everything else. And shows a different perspective to the landscape in England. So those are a couple that really interested me.
That's a really cool one, because I feel like, your first step, when you're eating, you're still consuming carcasses and things like that. You need to make that connection to then go plant-based. But then even when you're plant-based and living that lifestyle, you still don't necessarily see the damage that this actually does. Like, especially if you're living in a city, you don't actually see the wastelands. You don't see the diseases in the animals. You don't see the conditions that is potentially harming the environment. Now, like when we're looking at films and just defining that term a little bit, is like something like Game Changers, is that a film, or is there like a difference between a doco and a film?
I look at film as basically anything in the video format. And this year we added, so films could be 2-3 hours in length. They could be 2 minutes in length. Where we were getting last year, we got a bunch of kind of 5 minute and under films, which are great. But so we added this year, we call it a PSA category, a public service announcement category. And so there we have, like, PETA submitted a Super Bowl commercial that they were planning to show last January, and Milk Does the Body Bad is another one that was submitted by the folks at the Switch for Good podcast. So we have short films like that, but then like Game Changers would be a feature documentary. That's what I would consider that.
A feature documentary, right? Yeah. And then when we're actually looking at the craft, like I've been a videographer for about 5 years, so I understand the absolute gargantuan amount of work that has to go into planning, shooting, executing films that are this emotionally impactful. Do you have any advice for aspiring filmmakers from films that you've seen succeed quite well in something that we can adopt when we're creating something?
Yeah, I'm the organizer. I'm the film guy. I'm the film manager, organizer, kind of driver, leader. I'm not the filmmaker, but I talk to a bunch, and I can tell you I've seen a lot, obviously. And the things I hear from kind of veteran filmmakers when I hear them answering these types of questions is for new filmmakers, start short, start small, and build up, because it is a massive amount of time. And I think young filmmakers think it's not worthwhile unless it's a feature, unless it's an hour and a half long, and maybe their quality suffers because they're trying to make it such a big feature, when there's still a massive amount of work that goes into a really quality 12-minute documentary. Sometimes they're even harder because it's the editing decisions are even harder because you can't show everything you want to show. But starting small like that, I think getting mentors, filmmakers that I know are very supportive of other filmmakers, especially the veteran ones. Find people out there that you really admire, find their work that they admire, and get in touch with them, ask them questions, and find a mentor that can guide you along your way. And the other thing I would say is, just really craft the story. Sometimes we were getting films that are, behind the scenes at slaughter farms and animal farms, slaughterhouses, and they're important messages that need to be told, but they're just, simple, maybe hidden cameras, and it just, shows the blood, guts, and gore. Whereas other films I've seen that, have the same subject matter are crafted in a story of, let's connect with someone that's worked at that farm before and talk about their life. And so it's, it's easy to show the blood, guts, and gore, but people don't want to necessarily see that, but they need to know what's happening. And so to be able to show the impact that a slaughterhouse has on the animals and the humans working there without actually having to show the blood, guts, and gore, that takes a bit more of I find a really good crafted story that a filmmaker has to do. And there's a few out there that are doing a great job of those. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think finding a mentor is something that's quite powerful, but also like probably the most, I think, confronting one, because you think, I don't know, I feel like inherently people are quite good-willing, or they want to do good things. So I think if you reach out, regardless of industry, like film or otherwise, I think finding a mentor would be, I don't know, like if someone reached out to you and said like, hey, I want to organize something. I see you're a professional at organizing amazing things. Like, you wouldn't shun them off. Like, you know what I mean?
No. Yeah, no, absolutely. I get people all the time that are interested in starting different things, or, my background is in leadership development, leadership type stuff, professional speaking, like anything that I've had experience in running, triathlon. I do get the odd email from folks. And especially I get a lot of people, friends now, that know that I'm plant-based, that, are interested in plant-based. But no, I'm happy. People, it's inherent in humans that we want to help. We have this helping gene that we want to help. And when someone shows interest in stuff that we're passionate about, of course we're going to help them. Obviously, probably the more successful you are, the busier you are, and then probably the harder to get a hold of. But when I say, everybody's got to have lunch. So taking people out to lunch is always a good way. Or, approaching people, say like, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I've got, 5 questions I really want to ask you. And, instead of saying, hey, I'm looking for a mentor, can we chat sometime? It's like, whoa, for a busy person, that looks like, whoa, that's a big commitment. But if you say like, I need 15 minutes, can you give me 15 minutes as a bit of background? And a lot of times you'll be surprised that people will give you that time.
For sure. Like, I think what you touched on, that we have some sort of, I guess, helping gene. It's almost selfish mixed with altruist, because when we do help someone, it's for us to feel good. Kind of, but also thank God they're getting something else out of it as well.
Yeah.
But I wanted to change gear to fitness for a second, because you mentioned triathlon before. I can see, you've done an Ironman, you've done 100-miler. Like, that's no small feat. What got you into fitness?
Yeah, it started a long time ago. I guess my childhood, I've always just been kind of an athletic kid growing up. I think I played just about every sport and tried everything once. And I seem to be a jack of all trade and master of none. I never kind of gravitated to one sport over the other. I was never a stellar athlete at any particular sport, but I seem to do quite well in a bunch. I guess that's what gravitated me to triathlon in high school. I was playing water polo, pretty competitive water polo, kind of nationally competitive. And then I had some older water polo guys that I used to play with that were into triathlon, and that got me interested. And I went out and watched a few races and fell in love with the sport. And so kind of my high school, kind of early university years, I was totally into triathlons for about 4 or 5 years, doing a bunch every year. And ended up getting away from that while I was worked in outdoor education and guiding and kind of leading the expeditions, but it always stayed with me. So I've always kind of been athletic that. And then, doing an Ironman was always, a goal of mine since I was 14. Eventually 17 years later, I managed to get to the start line of my first Ironman, and I've done a couple now. And in the last couple of years, I've moved on to the trail running and the ultra scene. So it's always been a big part of my life, and it's a great hobby to have, and I really enjoy it.
100 milers, to put that into perspective for the non-Americans, that's 160 kilometers. That's a bloody long distance. What kind of preparation or mindset do you have to get into to even drag yourself to the start line and then crawl to the finish line?
Yeah. Well, it's not something you sign up for the week before. I probably signed up 8 or 9 months or 6 to 8 months. I can't exactly remember when, but quite a long time before. But like, you build up to it. The year before, I tried to do 100K, and I think I did a 50 miler, so just under 100K. And then I thought, well, maybe I'm ready for the jump up to the 100 miler. I thought it would take a few more years, but I thought, oh, what the heck? I think I'm ready for the jump. So you build up to it for sure. And then, you gotta break it down. It's definitely mind blowing when you think of doing the whole thing. The race I did was called the Sinister Seven. So it was 7 sections, 7 segments. And so you try to just break it down, like one segment at a time. Let's finish this segment. Let's finish this one. Let's finish this one. And after like segment 4, I was, about 8 hours in, I was extremely dehydrated. I actually tried to quit. I tried to drop out of the race. And the guy at the aid station there that was leading the aid station, he basically wouldn't let me. I tried to take off my race number and give it to him, which is kind of the symbolic thing you need to do when you drop out of a race. And he said, you got 5 hours until the cutoff. You got lots of time. Why don't you just hang out here for a while and drink some soup and have some chips and see how you feel? And I was like, all right. Like I was really dehydrated at that point. I didn't know that I was that dehydrated because your mind kind of starts to shut down and you go into self-doubt and you start, coming up with all the excuses about why this is not working out. And sure enough, I sat there for about an hour or so, 45 minutes or so to an hour. And I drank like 3 cups of soup, veggie soup broth. And I ate a couple small bags of chips. And after about an hour, I washed my legs and I saw people coming in and going out and coming in and going out. I was like, how are they feeling that way? Like, I feel horrible. But then after a while, I started to come around and I said, well, I should probably go to the bathroom now. And I was surprised because I'd gone 7 hours without having to pee. So I was extremely dehydrated. And when I got up out of the chair, I was like really expecting to be stiff and sore and kind of hobble over to the porta potties. And I got up and I was like bounced out of the chair. I was like, I feel great. And did a few knee bends and just jogged in a circle for a little bit. And I was like, I think I feel okay. And so I told the guys, like, I think I'm going to go for it. And at that point, I was still only halfway through the race. So I still had another 50 miles to go. Like still a long way to go. I still had another 8 hours or more of running, but I didn't think about that. I was like, let's try to get to the next aid station and see how I feel there and reevaluate. And I even asked the aid station captain, the guy running the place, I was like, at the next aid station, because it's in the mountains in the Rockies in Canada, I was like, is there a chance that I can get out? Because some of them are really remote and you can't get a vehicle in there. I was like, so if I get the next aid station and I'm just done with it, like, can they get a car in there to get me out of here? And he checked on that and he came back and said, yeah, we can do that. So I was like, let's get to the next aid station. And I took off and I felt great. So, it was just taking one section at a time. And then I went on for the next over 8 hours and ran through the night and felt awesome. So it's amazing how you just break it down, and it's amazing how the mind just plays games on you, but your body it's obviously a mind body experience, but it's anything is possible in these events, and the longer events, the more chance you get to recover from episodes like this.
Oh, for sure. My God, I can't imagine. I read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and that blew my mind when he ran 100 miler without training at all. He is a beast. What I put is in the crazy box, because he trained legs the day before with his sergeant in the army or in the Navy, sorry. And then he went around 100 miler, and I'm thinking, man, see, that's craziness. So he's definitely an Elon Musk, not human type of situation. That mindset's just insane. I can imagine the absolute self-doubt you'd have, and you'd just be questioning, why am I here? What am I doing? I could be at home on the couch, binging Netflix or whatever the hell. I could be organizing another film festival, and I'm here that's so awesome how you could just.
And you mentioned, how do you drag yourself to the start line? For any goal like this, you're not dragging yourself. You are so excited to get going. I could hardly sleep, right? And I think it's important that everybody has these, we call them stretch goals, goals that are just on the realm of possibility. And it's what gets you out of bed in the morning. You're like, I know we're doing this. I know we're doing this. Like this, let's go for it. This gets me out of bed in the morning. This gets me excited, And the festival is a similar thing. It's a not an ultra marathon, but in ways it feels like it.
Oh, absolutely. And look, I'm currently training for a marathon and then triathlon and then ultra Ironman. That's my kind of level of what I want to do. Now, the problem with me is I read David Goggins and I went too hard. So I went from being able to run
too hard, too quick.
Exactly. I went from being able to run 5Ks at like a good pace, like 25, 30 minutes. I'm done with my 5Ks. And next week I ran 16 with nothing in the middle. And then what I ended up getting is ITB inflammation or runner's knee. And it's been like a 2-3 month recovery because it was pretty bad and tight and I couldn't walk without pain. So my question to you is, how in the world do you do something like 100 miles or these Ironmans or triathlons, all these things without injury?
You don't.
Yeah. Kind of expecting that answer.
I would love to say I've never been injured. I've never seen a physiotherapist, never been to a chiropractor. I'm currently dealing with a physio right now with a hamstring issue. But I think, in triathlon, they say there's 3 elements: swim, bike, run, but there's almost 5 because there's swim, bike, run, nutrition, and recovery.
Right.
And your recovery you got to take that as serious as you do the swim, bike, run training. Because that's when the injuries happen a lot of times, when you're not recovering properly and taking care of yourself on those rest days and having rest days, and building slowly. Yeah. Like, what you need to do, but you got so excited by the book, you went out and there's very few endurance athletes that haven't done that. I've definitely gotten over my head and went too far too soon. But it's about consistency. It's about every day putting the work in, gradually building up, 10% more each week, not 50% more every 3 days. And your body gets adapted to that, and you build your engine and your muscles get used to it. Could I go run 100 miles tomorrow? No, I'm not training for 100 mile right now. And I would beat myself up silly if I tried that tomorrow. But at the time I would, spent probably 9 months slowly building up to that and building up my miles, building up my body, building up my nutrition and really focusing on the recovery. And, I was pretty healthy going into that race. Again, it's one of those, a 5K or 10K you can get through if you've got some niggly issues, some minor issues, but like 100 miler, if you're feeling great, shape. You're still, if you're tip top shape, you're still probably going to struggle to get through it. So if you've got some small injuries, you don't want to be running for 28 hours.
Seriously. And then on the back of that, when we've got people, I'm sure a lot of people haven't even started their fitness journey or maybe are on the cusp of, getting their running shoes on or getting ready to sign up to a gym. What advice do you have for people starting on their fitness journey?
Yeah, I think it's key you do something you enjoy. I think so many people go on a fitness journey because they feel like they should. And I should run because all my buddies are running. Everybody's signing up for this race. There's a great race in this town. I should do it. But I actually hate running. But, I love swimming, but everybody else is running, so I should do that. No, swim. Because if you hate it, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it consistently. You might try it for a couple of weeks on your, New Year's resolution, but you're not going to stick with it if you hate it. Or find a way to like it. If you need to have some goals that after every run, you get to have 2 pieces of chocolate, find a way to motivate yourself. But so I think, starting small, starting slow. And I think, doing what you enjoy. If it's hiking in the mountains, if it's hiking in the woods, if it's going for long, brisk walks, I think walks are great, but they've got to be brisk walks. You got to be sweating. You got to be huffing and puffing. A stroll with the dog is not the best thing to get you in shape. But
unless your dog's a staffy or something that's just bolting into every street.
Yeah, exactly. I always say you should be sweating every day. Find some ways to sweat every day, and it doesn't mean locking yourself in the house in Melbourne in the summer with no air conditioning. You got to move your body. You got to move your body every day and find a way to sweat. And so do things you like, do things you enjoy. Start small and get some coaching. If it's an area that you haven't done before or you're really interested, do coaching. One thing that bugs me is that people don't get running coaching, running technique. Running technique is just like swimming technique, but everybody gets a swim coach or swim lessons. But people just think you can run because that's in nature. Humans know how to run, but to run properly, especially if you're doing some longer distances, there's a lot of technique that can go into saving you a lot of time and money in buying shoes, a lot of injuries. I switched my whole running technique probably 8 or 9 years ago to more of a 4-foot running, and I stopped getting shin splints. And so I did a run gait analysis. I've done a couple of them now. You go to kind of a chiropractor, physio, or some running clinic in your town, and they put you on a treadmill and they give you a video camera and they watch your technique, how you run. And so don't be afraid to get a run coach, folks that are starting out running.
Oh, for sure. I absolutely back all of that. I think like now I'm seeing a physio like every week to every fortnight and I walk in and they're like, "Why the hell are you walking like that?" Like that's what they said to me. And I'm like, "What?" I walk like a very strange person. And then, back of that, then they can give you stretches based on how you run so you avoid injuries. And, I think doing your research and due diligence is one thing, but then also a lot of research might be, I guess, misinformation or misappropriated or just not landing well. Like, if you're a 4-foot runner, you might suit flat feet shoes for short distances or however that might work. And I think, getting a coach, like you said, is almost imperative, especially if you want to, do this for long term. Because otherwise, you're going to get to 60 and you're going to feel all the mistakes you're making now.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you get that far without the big injuries.
Oh, yeah. If you get that far. Look, and part of fitness and health is diet. Now, when it comes into, I guess, diet and lifestyle, you've got a wife and 3 girls and they're all vegan. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's insane. So were you worried about putting your girls on a vegan diet?
No, not at all. I was a little worried about myself. My girls at the time were 2 and 4, and the third child wasn't quite born yet. She wasn't born yet. Can't be halfway. Yeah. And so they were really young, and I really didn't think twice about it. I just, after educating myself and watching Forks Over Knives and reading some books out there on a plant-based diet and the benefits of it, I was kind of sold, and I was like, all right, yeah, it makes sense to me. Like, I'm not too worried about it. And we switched the kids over, and fortunately they were young enough not to like put up a big resistance or a big fight. They were just kind of along for the ride. And, I think my 9-year-old's probably the tallest kid in our class. And so they're developing well, and they're doing really well. They're both, little athletes. And so right now they're 2, 7, and 9. And yeah, no, wasn't really concerned at all. I was on a Facebook group the other day, and one guy, he was vegan. He's like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable putting my kids on a vegan diet. I'm afraid I'm going to miss out some nutrients for them or something. And I kind of was, like, well, what are you giving them that you're not giving you,
Yeah. Now, with 7 and 9-year-old, are you arming them with like why they're potentially eating this kind of diet so that like eventually their classmates are going to be like, well, why are you not ever eating an animal? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. And they don't think of it. Their classmates don't quite think of it like that. They think, why aren't you having a turkey sandwich?
Right.
Or
of course,
whatever. No, they get that. And it has challenged. And, I wouldn't be shocked if someday they're like, we're done with it. Everybody's, whatever, asking me about what we're eating today, but they've been great. I think they kind of enjoy kind of like the leadership side of it, the kind of sticking out a little bit. They don't go around waving the flag in school and saying everybody should be vegan. I think of their elementary school of probably 350 kids, I think they're probably the only vegan kids in the school that we know of. There's probably a few vegetarian ones, but and a lot of their friends know, and a lot of their friends are really interested because like what kid doesn't love animals?
True.
And that's what I kind of tell them to say, when people say, why are you vegan? There's a million answers we could give them, but I'm like, just say, I don't want to hurt animals.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, of course I don't. And that makes sense to them. And, we've taken them out to some sanctuaries, and so they get it, and they go to the farm animal sanctuaries and they learn about like these horses were race horses and they were going to slaughter for dog food, and now they're here to live the rest of their life. They're blown away by that. And they're like, I love that horse.
How did you explain the concept of death and slaughter? Did you just say blatantly like these guys are literally going to get killed for X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, well, they understand where meat comes from. Like it when they see the films and that. And I don't show them all the films that are submitted. I show them, I give them age appropriate information that they can handle at their age right now. And that'll grow as they get older, and we can get more kind of in-depth conversations. But right now it's all about the animals. My oldest one just loves, her goal now in life is to own a farm sanctuary. When she gets her dolls and her stuffed animals together to play in their bedroom, she's like building sanctuaries with her dolls and stuff. And so they're totally into it. It's not like there's no resistance at all. I expected when they're teenagers to have a bit of resistance, and maybe they'll try to eat meat somewhere out at a party or whatever, and so be it. Teenagers got to experiment, right? But they know under our house we'll be eating a plant-based diet when they're here. But it's all about trying to role model and be good examples to them. When they go to birthday parties and that, if they have a piece of ice cream cake that's not vegan, the world's not going to fall apart. Be it. A lot of times we'll try to give them a cupcake or something, one of the vegan bakeries in town, so they can take a cupcake and they'll have a sweet with everybody else. A bunch of their friends now, like the last birthday party I went to last week, they came home with vegan cupcakes that the parent went out and specifically bought vegan cupcakes for my kids.
That's so awesome.
And that just melts your heart when you do that. It's like, wow, like you didn't need to do that. And others are like, oh, we got a vegan pizza for your girls. Like, don't worry about it. So their friends are really receptive to it.
Yeah, thank goodness, I guess, over the last decades, veganism has made kind of like this trend that everyone kind of knows roughly what it is. They know it's not quite vegetarian, and it's kind of making that shift so that it's much easier to be quite supportive. And like as a dad or as a parent, did you get much crap from other friends or family for putting your kids on a vegan diet?
No, I think, I don't know what's being said behind me at the family tables.
Yeah.
I think most people are respectful and aren't saying that to our face. I'm sure we had turned a few heads, and I know of my mother was obviously concerned for her grandkids and like, where are they going to get the protein, and, are they going to be malnourished, and concerns like that. And, I know the kids have friends that one parent was like, her friend wants to be vegan, but her parent was like consulting pediatricians to find out, like, is this okay for my daughter? It's like, why don't you just ask us? Like, you see us doing this with our kids. But we found out through the grandparents that's like, she's really concerned. Like the mother was really concerned. And so they're not asking us directly. We get more people just inquiring and asking us about it. It's almost rare when you're at a dinner table or a dinner party with friends that the topic doesn't come up. Sometimes we're just like, can we just like eat our dinner with you guys and chat about whatever's going on in the world? Like, doesn't always have to come back to veganism. Like, we're happy to talk about it, but it's like, let's just have a chat.
Yeah. I'm sure every vegan inherently gets some level of that, unfortunately,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At the same time, it's a chance to advocate without having to shove it down their throat when people are genuinely asking questions.
If they're genuinely asking questions, right, or if they're setting you up.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of times I'm like, if you want to have this conversation, we can, but like, if you're just like trying to poke the bear, like, let's just move on.
Seriously. Is there anything that you've been especially careful about, like raising the kids on a vegan? Like, is like iron a topic in the household? Is there any like supplements you're adding to them or to yourself?
Yeah, no, it's just B12. They take their B12 vitamins. We use the spray kind because I find that's easiest with the kids. Like popping the pill each day. And I knew if I got the gummy bears, they'd want to eat them all in like 2 days.
Right. Overload.
They like the spray. The 2-year-old, or she's 3 now, I've got to have a hard time for her, like not putting the spray bottle in her mouth as she pushes down on it.
Right.
She's like ready to lick the top because it's a raspberry flavored. But no, not concerned. Like we eat a really, whole food plant-based diet, probably 80% of the time. There's 20% treats that we have. But you're always just concerned they're getting their veggies just like any parent is. It's concerned that they're eating more veggies. They would eat Daya cheese all day long if they could on their pizzas, but we got to mix it up. But yeah, they're good. Like I would say they eat a lot healthier than I did when I was a kid.
Everything. I think every generation is going to slowly be eating healthier than us as awareness kind of grows, or hopefully.
Yeah, and they definitely watch a lot less TV.
Oh, that's good. That's good, especially with the new documentary, The Social Dilemma, that just came out on Netflix. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It's quite.
I haven't seen it, but I just heard about it. Rich Roll was talking about it on his podcast today.
I love Rich. Yeah, I got to listen to that episode. It's pretty like powerful. Like, and I guess the interviewees, the people that they have on are quite like prolific figures in the industry, like the president of Pinterest, he was Facebook,
right.
like we've got all the industries and how they set it up. And I think the storytelling, when we were talking about that earlier, I think it's very, very good. And it's a little bit frustrating to watch, but no, it's a good film for anyone to soak in if you've got some time. And, you know, most people, I'm guessing, have a Netflix subscription. So yeah, that's that. But on the topic of food, you mentioned whole food, plant-based. So what's something that you're loving to cook up in the kitchen that fills your belly and soul?
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many things. You know, I like just about everything. It's sometimes it's frustrating with the kids that they have their probably 6 meals that they really like, and everything else is kind of like, do I have to?
Yeah, right.
When they're really nice meals, and like my wife and I sometimes we cringe. We're like, oh, can't wait for the day we can just cook for ourselves. You know, but of course we don't want to wish that upon us, and our kids are going to be 18 before we know it. You know, but yeah, I love a good stir fry, coconut curry stir fry. A lot of soups. I'm into the soups. I'm into the Instant Pot these days.
What's an Instant Pot? What's that?
Instant Pot. Oh, the Instant Pot. You got to check it out. It's kind of like a slow cooker and a pressure cooker all in one.
Okay, and it's just the soups.
So, no, you can do so much with it. And so it's, you can do soups, you can use it as a slow cooker. So I'll do overnight oats. So I'll do steel cut oats and soak it overnight, cook it on slow cooking overnight. But I'll do soups. I'll do that. I'll do like, all kinds of stir fries you can do in there. You can do baked mashed cauliflower and potato recipes. There's tons of stuff you can do in there, but, yeah, I don't know. A couple of things we like. There's a really good Mexican dip, nacho dip that we love. I think it's out of Oshi Glow's cookbook, and that's a fan favorite. Like when we go to parties, that's the one we make, and I think it's called the heartwarming nacho dip or something. Do
you know the recipe right now that you can splurge out for us?
I don't, but it's carrot and cashew based. Like friends that are non-vegan are shocked that there's no cheese in it, but it's very cheesy, but there's no cheese in it. Not a nutritional yeast, carrots, cashews, they're the base. If you just Google kind of heartwarming nutritional nacho dip or the Oshi Glow's nacho dip, I think it comes up. But yeah, that's a hit for sure. The kids love this Magnificent, which is a mac and cheese that I make from the Plant Powered Families cookbook. That cookbook's outstanding for anyone with kids, Plant Powered Families. Dina Burton is the author of that, and I probably cook out of that 3 times a week for the last 5 years.
Wow.
It's my most gifted book. When I find someone that's got kids that's interested in going plant-based, I send that to them with, like, overnight.
That's insane. Yeah. So definitely for kids, that sounds like a great book. If you're cooking that many, like, have you finished the book?
Yeah, like I've cooked everything that the kids like in it.
Right.
And that's fairly easy. Like there's a few more that are more involved and I'm like, I don't think they're going to like that.
Yeah.
But anything they like, you know, there's definitely some highlights in there. And they like 80% of that book. Whereas I have some beautiful other cookbooks, but there's probably like of the 100, there's probably like 5 that they'll eat.
Right. Well, that's kids.
Because they're a bit more involved. And yeah, exactly. And, you know, maybe they're more for like dinner party type recipes.
Right.
That you're not making on an average Wednesday night when you're like getting home from swimming practice at 5 o'clock in the evening and thinking, what am I going to make for dinner in the next half hour?
Yeah. And I'd love to ask this question to every guest I have on. How do you define being healthy?
Yeah, I think being healthy, you know, it's the whole mind-body connection. I think having a healthy mind is just as important as having a healthy body. I think, you know, for me, being healthy is I have certain benchmarks in terms of what I consider in terms of how good my running is or how fit I am. You know, probably a weight that I'd like to stay within a range, albeit I don't even own a scale, so I can't even tell you how much I weigh. But yeah, so I think it's keeping your body healthy. I always want to be able to jump in and do activities, physical activities without any strain. So someone says, hey, you want to go for a run? Yeah, let's go. You want to go for a long bike ride? Let's go. You want to go for a hike? You want to go for a paddle? You want to do that? It's like, yeah, let's go. Because I've stayed at a fitness level that I can jump in and do those things at a recreational level. And so that's kind of the body healthy. For me, mind wealthy, I need to have some goals in my life. I need to be surrounded by people that I really love and enjoy and want to spend time with. But this COVID experience has really, really highlighted the importance for me of goals, and especially athletic goals in terms of staying healthy. Because being an athlete, I heard a quote once recently that said, "Athletes are horrible at working out, but incredible at focusing on achieving a goal." And whereas a lot of people work out as a hobby just to maintain some kind of fitness and lifestyle, whereas for me, athletics is a hobby, and I need that goal of like that race I'm going for, that personal best, that whatever, to stay on a focus, on a plan. But just going for runs for the sake of runs and not getting fat, I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of a convoluted answer. It's a tough question, but I think if you're going to bed happy at the end of the day, if you're jumping out of bed in the morning, you're doing well.
Yeah. It's a convoluted answer, but it's also like, I guess, a convoluted question. Like it's very hazy, and it's one of those. It's like a clay, and you're the pottery person who can just mold that into whatever shape you want to make it, and everything that comes out at the end of that session is correct, regardless of how good or bad anyone thinks that looks, because it's all just perspective, isn't it? And that's why I love asking it to everyone, because everyone has you see slight lapses, but everyone's got quite a unique spin and take on it. And a lot of people have said what you've said with is in terms of fitness, and that's functional. Like an answer I got recently from Alex Glover is, you want to just be able to get out of bed and just go for a run. Right. Like that's like just being functional and meaning, so that when you're 20 or 50 or 80 years old, you can still move around. It's like those Okinawans that are still riding bikes like 95. You want to get to that level of like, what the hell are you doing on a bike? Like that's what you want people to say about you.
Yeah. And, for me, health has always been number one. Like there's a lot of people out there that they don't put health as the number one priority.
Crazy people.
For me, health, it's always, because you're no good to anybody else if you can't help. Like, people say, oh no, my job, or my kids, or my dog, or my property, or whatever is like most important. And it's like, well, how good are you to any of those if you don't have your health? And so it is, it's a huge priority for me. And fortunately, my wife feels the same way. And we tag team and make sure we keep our health as a priority. And I think that's, a big part of role modeling for our kids as well.
Oh, for sure. And, you'd want your kids to see you be quite healthy and active and not eating all the crap junk food that a lot of other people do, because that kind of molds their brain, especially being the age they are. They're getting all their, I guess,
they're sponges.
Up. Yeah, they're sponges. Exactly. I want to finish on the festival. So we're going to be online. How exactly does that work?
Yeah. Let me tell you. It's it starts coming up on October 10th. So it runs from the 10th to the 17th. All the information's on our website. We're running it on the Eventive platform, but that's not important for you guys because all the links will be there on our website, which is theivff.com.
Yeah, I'll leave it linked up in the show notes as well, just to make it easier. Great. Because letters and things get jumbled up.
Sure does. Yeah. So theivff.com. Yeah, it's all there. It runs from the 10th to the 17th, and we've got 28 films. We've divided the films up into blocks, and so I believe we have 12 blocks of films, and so each block is about 90 minutes in length, and they're, I believe, $10 Canadian. And so one block may be a feature film, just one film, but other blocks may be 4 or 5 or 6 films. And we're going to be recording some Q&As with some of the filmmakers, and so they'll be added into the blocks with the films in it. We want to craft, experience more than just the film. We want to try to get some behind the scenes and learn a bit more about the film where we can. It's a really neat, this year we've gotten all the filmmakers to do introductions to their own film and send us a video of that, which is really, really going to be neat. I'm really excited for people to see that, because
really cool.
People always appreciate an introduction, but to have the filmmaker do it with sharing a little tidbit from some behind the scenes or some of the reasons why they did it. It's great. The ones that have been coming in. And and then so you can get a pass as well. So the passes are $50, I believe, Canadian, or $45. And so the $50 ones are for Canadians only, and the $45 are for non-Canadians, because we have a couple films that are geo-blocked, meaning that can only be watched in Canada because of distribution rights and things like that. And so it's a little cheaper for the international folks. They're all going to be on demand. So October 10th, they all go live on October 10th. And then you've got a week to watch them. Once you start watching a block, you've got 48 hours to finish it. And once you buy your ticket, there's a little pop-up says you want to gift a ticket. So you can, if you got a friend that you think needs to watch these, you can gift them a ticket. After the film, actually, as well, I think another pop-up comes up about gifting it again, because when I attend the film festivals in person, that's one of the biggest questions I get is like, how can I tell people about these films, or how can I share this with my friend? And so like, boom, right after the film, you can send them the link and they can watch it as well. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm just thinking in my mind's eye, I'm trying to envision this. It's kind of like, I guess you're using this event on, or that platform that you said, and that kind of works. Is it kind of like Netflix, where you just, if you have your TV set up to like your computer or laptop, you can click on this and it just shows up and it kind of just runs like back to back?
Yeah, exactly. Each block once you get into the blocks, you just click on the right side of the block, you can click on the actual film. So you can click on those individually. If there's 5 films in the block, you just click on each one individually and it'll play on demand when you're ready to watch. But it's not that much different than Netflix in terms of on demand and when you want it.
What a cool way to support the filmmakers and you guys as well. Like, it's such a cool, like, a lot of the times you do all this work and you're not really rewarded well. And this is a great platform to kind of share a bit of a circle of love with everyone.
Yeah, that's a big part of the festival too. Not only do I want everybody to see vegan themed films to help them, eventually one day to transition to becoming vegan, I wanted to give the vegan themed filmmakers, another platform. There's some great films on Netflix and some other streaming services, but that's probably only, 1 to 10% of the films that are out there that are being made. And I think these other filmmakers are incredible, and maybe they don't have the financial resources or the connections to get on one of the streaming services, but they still might have a really quality film. And so I'm happy to, build this as a platform for them to get the word out and to an even, broader audience this year.
Perfect. And then what do you think of some films that everyone is going to love?
Yeah, there's a film called Kinder Creatures, which is really exciting. It's a real feel good. It's a gentleman travels around to different farm sanctuaries throughout the United States and kind of highlights 3 or 4 of these farm sanctuaries and kind of tells the stories behind the farms and tells the stories behind a few animals. And so it's a really good, feel good film. I showed it to my 9-year-old. She loved it. And, it's impossible to come away from that, from feeling good. There's let me just see here. I'm just looking at the list here now. There's a film called Regan Russell, and Regan Russell
is the guy that got run over by a truck, was it?
Yeah, the lady. Yeah,
the lady.
Yeah, here in Ontario, and so they've kind of they rushed and put together a short film on about her and her life, and I'm really excited to show that, pay tribute to Regan, because it's obviously a tragedy. It didn't happen too far from Ottawa, just outside of Toronto and Burlington. And a lot of people were impacted by that, and the whole Save movement and the whole Vigil movement. So we're really happy that we can show a film about Regan there and highlight some of the aspects of her life. There's a couple films on some professional athletes. There's a lady race car driver. There's a professional bodybuilder. Short films about their life. Those are
whole heap.
Some great ones there. There's another film about the bear market, the bear bile that they're selling in Thailand. There's quite a range.
Quite a selection.
Let me see. Yeah, that's probably good enough to get you started. Definitely, all the films are on our website, and the descriptions are on the website as well. So, and
then besides ivff.com, is there any other places where we can go to connect with you guys?
Yeah, it's theivf.com.
Sorry, butchering it.
That's all right. You'll have it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Our socials are our Instagram, Twitter, are Vegan Film Fest, just Vegan Film Fest, and you can find us there. And then we're on Facebook as well, I believe, Facebook/Vegan Film Fest. And we're posting there all the time. I'm starting to do some Facebook Lives, or just kind of behind the curtains of the festival and what's going on day to day for us right now, building up to the event. And we're going to be posting some trailers and things like that soon.
Perfect.
So come check us out.
And then on the tail end, the last question I'd like to ask you is, our conversation is jam-packed with amazing knowledge. I think anyone can, and I learned a lot from it as well. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with that we potentially didn't touch on, or something that you're passionate about?
Yeah, I don't know. I think everybody just come on out and watch the films. Be good to yourselves, be good to your neighbors, gift it to a friend. I think that's a great thing you can do. If there's someone that's on the fence about becoming vegan, give them a pass, give them a ticket for the festival, and just stay safe and quarantine at home, but quarantine with a partner that wants to watch some films.
Perfect. That's what I plan on doing. Quarantine and movie night.
That's right.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Shawn. I really appreciate your time and your expertise in all the things you've shared with us. And I hope you guys are safe over in the lovely Canada land. And I look forward to seeing all the amazing films that you've got going on. Thank you once again, Shawn.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on. It's been great chatting with you.
Hi. Welcome to the end of the episode. Thank you for sticking all the way through. And thank you, Shawn, for coming on again and having this conversation. It was an absolute ball and pleasure to meet you. Again, guys, the International Vegan Film Festival, check it out. All the links are in the show notes. I'll definitely be taking part and watching all the amazing films that are on display, and of course, helping support the amazing vegan filmmakers that there are globally, and the work that they're trying to do in, exposing different elements of industries that can be quite harmful, but also feel good stuff. If you want to join the conversation, you can connect with us on Instagram at plant.paradigm. We're also on Twitter and TikTok and YouTube and, most things. If you're on YouTube, consider commenting and subscribing. And if you felt like this brought you some value, consider sharing this with a friend or family or colleague, or even your next door neighbor. That is all from me today. And I will see you guys next week for another episode. Stay happy, eat plants. Peace.